Well, good afternoon, everyone. With us today are Vera Appleton and Rui Horta, who are both well known in the cultural milieu and to whom I would like to thank for their readiness to be here. I would also like to thank Nuclear for, once again, contributing to this cycle of conversations related to the discipline of projects. Well, since the ladies are first, I will begin by introducing Vera, whom I know especially well. And she was born in Lisbon. She has a degree in communication and marketing from the Escola Superior de Comunicação Social do IPL and a postgraduate degree in marketing management from ISEG. She has a master's degree in contemporary art from Faculdade de Ciências Humanas da Universidade Católica de Lisboa, where she has been a guest lecturer since 2015. From 1997, she worked in the area of communication in several organizations until in 2007, she started the Appleton Square project as a founding partner. In 2018, she changed her legal status to a non-profit association, and since that year, she is the executive director of the Appleton Cultural Association. She is responsible for its global management and provides consulting and advisory services in the areas of artistic programming. All the most important artists, young and established from the Portuguese panorama, have passed through her space. In the last years, its programming has included more and more international artists. Also born in Lisbon, Rui Horta began dancing at the age of 17 in the Ballet Gulbenkian courses, and later lived for several years in New York, where he completed his training and developed his career as an interpreter and teacher. In '84, he returns to Lisbon, where he continues his pedagogical and artistic activity, being one of the most important boosters of a new generation of Portuguese dancers and choreographers. During the 19th, he lived in Germany, where he directed the Soap Dance Theater Frankfurt, his work being considered a reference of European dance and presented in the most important theaters and festivals around the world, such as the Théâtre de la Vie in Paris, which presented and co-produced his works over a decade. In 2000, he returned to Portugal, having founded in Montemoro Novo, o Espaço do Tempo, a multidisciplinary center of artistic experimentation. Besides his intense work as an independent creator, he has developed, and as a guest artist, a vast repertoire for renowned companies such as the Kohlberg Ballet, the Gulbenkian Ballet, the Grand Ballet de l'Opéra de Genève, the Opéra de Marseille, the Netherlands Dance Theatre, the Gothenburg Opera, the Compagnie Nationale de Ballade, Random Dance, etc. Throughout his career, he has received important awards of distinction such as the Grand Prix de Bagnolet, the Deutsche Produzentenpreis, the Accard Prize, the Almada Prize, enfim, prémios, the rank of the Official de Ordem do Infante, and the rank of Chevalier de l'Ordre des Arts et des Lettres by the French Ministry of Culture. His choreographic creation was recently classified as German dance heritage, and in the performing arts, his work as director extends to theater, opera, and experimental music. In common, Vera and Rui have the fact that they both manage spaces which, despite many differences, share this multidisciplinary vocation with a strong experimental and reflective component. It is exactly to share their experience in this field and to help us reflect on what new cultural facilities the city would need that they are here with us today. Their thinking and their interests, their thinking interests us, especially in the context of our project work, but it also interests us as users of the city of Lisbon. So let us then give them the floor. Please, Vera and Rui.
Thank you so much for inviting us. I think for me and Rui, it was a very interesting exercise to think about this. It is a dream come true. It would be a dream come true, isn't it, Rui? This place to have an art center in Lisbon. So let's start dreaming with this conversation, I think. We have chosen a model of talk base to organize our ideas. I think it would be easier. Sorry for my English, it's not perfect, far from perfect. So we will speak a little bit about our ideas about the architectural program for the conversion of the space of the former Miguel Bombarda Hospital in Lisbon into a contemporary art center. Rui Horta and I will begin talking, and at the end we will be delighted to answer any of your questions. I think the students are connected with the teachers. We will also be happy to hear any comments from the teachers. The image you will see here are related with the issues, sometimes not directly related, but I think they may serve as an inspiration for your work. So, for example, now you see for the beginning an image of Museu of Badajoz, Maiac, that it was an old prison. And it's interesting to see how it's like a panoptic also as you have in that place. And you see also in the outdoor space something that will start happening. And I think it's inspiring, and it's a beginning it's a kickoff for the presentation. So, sorry, we have another one. And just for inspiration, this is a panoptic. This is an old carcel, because it's Spanish, in Lugo. They call it carcel, and it is also a space for exhibitions. And as you can see, it is a nice place to do things, and like you have that space in Miguel Bombarda. So first of all, I think it would be good, and I will hand over to Rui, to have a look at the context of the site, which was formerly a psychiatric hospital. This, in a way, made it isolated and secure in relationship to the cities surrounding it, something that may be extremely interesting for artistic work, I think. Indeed, as we comment, me and Rui, artists tend to be a little mad themselves, so we are associating things. Do you think, Rui, this place fulfills the need for a protective skin in an artistic residential space?
Yeah. Hi, everybody, and thanks for the invitation. Great to be here. Yes, I think it's an incredible opportunity and actually a dream come true if this place could be adjusted, adapted, and would suffer, let's say, will go through a very exciting program of use. So I think you are putting your energy in a very interesting project. What I think about this space is that this space, I like the idea of protective skin, which is very interesting because a skin is something that on one hand protects us, but on the other hand also can imprison us. So, we have this double side. But in general, this responds to this idea that art is not a repetition of reality. It's a reflection of reality. So it needs a critical distance, needs a distance. And that distance is a protective distance. So all the inputs are in a big town, have always been historically in cities, in Lisbon, of course, all over. It's a fantastic city. But of course, to create, you need to detach yourself from that. And I think that protective environment with a big scale actually is quite wonderful. I mean, I was very impressed. I did not know this existed. So I would say, as a first answer, yes, I think it's fantastic there. So follow up, and I keep answering you.
Okay. So more than an art center, we think, as we talk about this, that Lisbon needs a place that is perfectly designed and adapted for creation. We would love to call it Arts District, a place of creation, presentation, and relationship building with the community through the artistic spirit. It would be a place with a private zone for residents, a creative process, a public zone for presentations, and a mixed zone where the public could mingle with the artists. These later two spaces would serve to establish relationships with the community. We think this is very, very important. Rui will tell us about the need for a performing arts space in the middle of Lisbon, and I will talk about visual arts fields. In my case, I can say that visual arts, and I will show you images of that, need appreciate artistic residences in isolated places with a connection to the nature, to the earth. Here is, for example, this is a museum in Louisiana Museum in Copenhagen, and this is a museum, not a place of residence, but it's very nice to mix art and nature, and it's just an example. And you have, this is another residence in the Netherlands. So I think to create, artists need to feel at peace, not to worry about mundane things, and to have life made easier at that sense. And to be in the middle of Lisbon, it could be a problem, but in this space, as we spoke, we have a lot of void. It's the theme of this session, I think. No, the void in the architecture, and so this place could be very suitable in terms of infrastructure and conditions, even being in the middle of the city. I think now, Rui, this is another space of residence. This is in Switzerland called Labec. So as you can see, nature and the places for work and for being, it's very connected, and I think it's a huge important thing. So Rui, tell us about the performance arts and your experience in Montemor.
I will. It's very interesting because I want to focus also once in a while on some concepts, because I think that will guide you once you start to draw and think and discuss. And for instance, one of the most important things is to understand that, and there will be actually two different discourses, one about residence, which is about creating and process, and the other is like a hub of connection with the city, where we have to decide how much the city gets into this space. This is up to you to decide in your project how much the city connects with the creation. So there could be theater, there could be open air spaces, can be a garden, a restaurant for sure. It's the biggest interface nowadays, you know. You always start a theater with a restaurant. You go in and you go out through a restaurant. It's the food is a big thing, and the drinks and the communication. So I would say about the residents, the most important thing is that you have to feel at home. So the residence means home. It's like, you even look at this image. I mean, you need to feel that you have a temporary home. And actually, one of the most important things, what is home? Home is basically, and I can tell you this image when people come into the convento, for you to have an idea. This year we have 105 residences, 700 artists passing the convento, and we cook around 15,000 meals. But still on this scale, we have a totally intimate scale of nucleus of 5 people, 6 people, 3 people, 1 person. That means we function in clusters where you feel at home. And home as a living room, very important, where you live, a connection where the artists in the evening, they gather together, they talk, they eat, they are together. The rooms where when you are tired of each other, and it's very important that there are individual rooms. So you don't want to spend 2 or 3 weeks sharing a room. If you are creating, you need individual spaces, because there's a moment also you don't want to see the people. You are working the whole day. But on the other hand, the meals are very important. So everything is around the table, because it's where the contamination happens, where the crossing of ideas, and also where we can decide that you can cross with other residences. So you can have food in your own areas, but you can decide that you have a common space where everybody eats together. And all of a sudden, it's a fantastic space, multidisciplinary. We have people from dance, from theater, visual arts, music, architecture, whatever. So I would say this phrase is, where should I start? Something simple, something clear. You come into a space, you are an artist. Normally your mother and your father told you all the time, oh, come on, why you are an artist? I mean, like your sister, she went to medical school, or, you know, your brother went to architecture school, you know, but you know, theater, dance, I mean, what's that story? Do something real. So you are the black sheep, huh? And then all of a sudden you leave, you go through that, you don't give up, you come into a resident space, and then someone says, hello, you're an artist, coming, great having you here. So first thing is respect. So look, here's your room, here's your freezer, the meals are here, here's your studio, here's the production room, here's the technicians, here's the material, here's the garden, just enjoy yourself, there's a coffee machine there. All of a sudden, that's home. Home is basically mama, is food on the table, is a bed, and is a smile. So very important thing is to have a team that smiles at you, that goes out of the way, because the most important thing in the space like that, it goes against the institution. The big thing I do in my place since 20 years is to make sure that everybody moves their ass from the chair, you know, to help the artist. You have to help. You are there because the artist is the number one. You're not there because you are an institution that destroys and intimidates the artist. On the opposite, when you draw this place, think of an interface, think of connections, think of democracy, think of an environment where people contaminate, where you would love yourselves to be there. I myself, I'm in residence every year, 1 or 2 nights. I go there, I sleep there. I always find a lot of wrong things there. And I think this is the idea of hospitality. This should be your guiding space. So not to go further too long, because we should keep this alive. And it's a pity that you cannot ask questions, because I'm sure you already have plenty of them. I would say that on the private sphere, you have to feel at home, and you have to feel also in your room on your privacy. But once you go to the rooms, to the where you work, it has to be madness. The place has to be open, has to have high ceilings, has to have a capacity of having a grid. We have all our studios, our small theaters. They have, like, even being small, like 12 by 12. We would love that they are 20 for 20. But they have seats for small audience. They have motors, so you can bring down the grid. You can put some projectors. You have an ongoing process, because the process of residence today is not you go into a room with your tape recorder. No, we are living in a multidisciplinary world, in a cross-disciplinary environment. I mean, you go with a video projector from the first day, or you go with the microphones, or 3 microphones, or you want to bring. There's an artist that just installed now in Espaço Tempo on the first day a bull from a fair, a moving bull. He's doing a piece with a bull. So, you know, we have all these electric bull, like a rodeo, that you pay, you know, €1 to have a ride in the middle of the stage now. So we need spaces that can be completely turned upside down, with lights, with grid, with sound. And so before you come in, normally, it's very normal, before you start your working day at 11 or 12, you ask the technicians the day before, okay, guys, can you hang this projector and that, and a video here and a lamp there? So this is a very normal thing in the space. So the first advice I would give you is make people feel at home. The second advice I would give you is combine. There has to be a balance between living spaces and working spaces. So you cannot have 50 rooms and 2 rehearsal spaces. That's a restaurant of 25 people for a room. You need to have probably 40 rooms, but you need to have 6 working spaces or 5. So you have 5 or 6 per room. You can, so it has to have a balance between the working space and the private space.
Yes, we spoke about that, and but before, because we will speak more specific, I think it's important to give more specific ideas to the students. And yes, I think you have that private space, that public space, and then a mixed area where they can join. But before that, we came to the conclusion that emptiness of the space should be maintained, since it's precisely this emptiness that facilitates large open air areas for work, socializing, and leisure, as you said. And we see here the Espaço Tempo. Do you like, Rui, to see your space?
I took this picture.
And for both for the artists and for the community, we would suggest the planting of trees, for example, to make the artists feel at home, that make it less barren and more organized. Fruit trees, vegetables, garden could serve the artistic community and give artists a sense of belonging. I think that was what Rui was speaking about. Belonging and feeling at home, self-sufficiency. They don't need to go outside, they can do things inside and they can stay at home. So this is a little bit, this is another image of Espaço Tempo, the connecting of the people with the nature. And I think for visual arts, speaking about this emptiness of your space at Miguel Bombarda, because you have a lot of space without buildings, and I think that's very nice to maintain. For the visual arts, it's important to have an area dedicated to sculpture, for example. Let's call it a workshop. In Portuguese, an oficina. It's very important because it has two meanings, this word. A space for experimentation, which would allow production in the open air. I think that's interesting. For example, we're seeing here the Museu Botânico, the Jardim Botânico in Coimbra, where artists can go and they can work there when they are working with some tough materials. It's good to have an open air space, and you don't have much more in Lisbon, of course. It's difficult to find it, this kind of work. And sorry, we were here. And I don't know, Rui, if you have something for this emptiness, to occupy this emptiness with your kind of work. But I think it's important because they can produce in the outside. I think maybe they can have a sunshade, for example. I'm speaking to the students. Maybe they can, to protect the area from the sun and from the rain, for people who can work all the year outside, in that outside area. What do you think, Rui?
Yeah, I mean, I think this space offers us this fantastic opportunity. Also, it's quite private because it's the top of the hill and nobody can look inside into the space, and that's quite wonderful. So if you want to do a piece with everybody naked, it's no problem. Yeah. I mean, it's just perfect. On the other hand, I would say this idea of emptiness is very important. The idea of emptiness is important because what is empty, you can fill up with something, but when it's already filled with something, you cannot empty it. And so I think it's very important that there are spaces that exist that are empty, not only indoors with very little information, and very important with natural light, strong natural light coming in, but also very immediate capacity of turning this white box, for instance, it's a white space, into a black box, because you just need to have a black curtain around, and just have some shades with that to the blackout, and all of a sudden you are into a theater. And I would say that the emptiness that Vera was talking is important outside, because emptiness is like a sheet of paper where you start to write. And every artwork starts from, it's like point in space. Either is a body, which is a point in an empty space, either is writing a book, so you can write, either typing on a dock in your computer, either in theater, you just create an empty space and then you put that space, or in an art gallery, you just occupy it with a sculpture. But the idea of emptiness is absolutely important on a space like that, and also a respect for the information. So I would say that there is this time where you can transform. I particularly want to stress that the black box mirrors the white box in a museum. So black box and white box are similar, one for the visual arts and the other for stage. On stage, basically what we normally do, we have a black box, so you can have a simple curtain with a very nice way that it goes around in a couple of seconds, and then you should be able to empty the room, turn on the stage lights, make a projection, whatever. You are in the theater world all of a sudden. But if you feel that you are creating something, you need the energy of the sun every day for that. Most of the creations start with a table sometimes and some chairs in the middle of an empty space. We call it table work, because it's like first we talk and then we do. First we know each other, then we do something. I mean, not the opposite. So it's not by accident. Most of the creative process, they start with meeting, people just talking to each other, and then they do something. So in a way, once more, I think the conversation will go on slowly into different directions. I would say this idea of emptiness that Vera was bringing is important. And the idea of intimacy is also very important, that you should decide when you open the work. It's the same thing with having a room where you have a curtain. If you don't mind that people, if you live in Amsterdam, everybody looks into each other's houses, it's okay. But in most places, people, and I lived in New York a big part of my life, people don't mind so much. But there are places, especially in the South, people want to be private. So you close the shades or you close the curtain. And this has to be your choice. So sometimes artists don't mind that people look into the creative process, but sometimes they really like to just close themselves. And every artist is different. And for each of them, we have to give the possibility of them being happy when they are creating.
Okay. So when it comes to the further construction or using this in building for private spaces or artistic creation, it seemed to us that it would be an asset to have a really well-equipped sound studio, for example, possibly available for the community to book and use, since there is a real lack of such facilities. Now I'm suggesting some things that you should have in a place like this, in an art district or an art center. We would also suggest an ample workshop spaces for visual arts, video and sound post-production rooms, which are increasingly used by artists now. They are, visual arts are multimedia artists. So it's very important to have a well-equipped space. And finally an area to store. I think that's important, to store, and I think it wasn't on your program, to store audiovisual equipment, raw material for artists, works of art themselves, and so on. So you see studios, you see, this is António Arroio in Portugal, this is a school, spaces for the artists. You see, like, this is an example of a studio. It's also a space in Caldas da Rainha, a non-profit organization. Very interesting that they're doing a radio program, so they have all the conditions to do that, sound conditions and everything. And then we go to the mixed space. I think that's where the artists would not mind to connect with community, like a library space, like this is the storage, sorry, that I didn't show you. And this is like a mixed area, the library and another space where the community can mix with the artists, that I think it's important to have. This is the image of the library for Rainha Sofia, Museum Rainha Sofia. And this could be a space with free Wi-Fi, maybe to art students can go there and can feel the spirit of that space. And I think that's important to have this mixed area. And another element that we spoke that could be a part of this public and private area, it would be a bar or a cafe, like you have Louisiana Museum always appearing at us, and where people can meet, where families can go and can feel the spirit of the space without invading the private space of the artist. So it's very important to define these boundaries between the private, the public, and the mixed zones in terms of architectural program. And would you have something here in terms of construction? I think the needs are a little bit different for performance and for public stage arts.
Yeah, I would like to talk about still a little bit before we go into the permeating with an audience and with the hybrid spaces like this. I still would like to talk about the creative spaces. It's not by accident that Vera comes from the visual arts and I come from the performing arts. It's because these are the most important driving forces today when you create something for the public. In this kind of collaborative spaces and museums, theaters, etc. We live in a very horizontal time, as you know. Like Deleuze has this fantastic phrase, like a rhizoma. Everything opens up. It's like it's a very horizontal world. You dress the same way a guy in China dresses, or a guy in New York. So we are pretty much watching the same series in Netflix and having the same kind of love affairs and dreams and consumption needs. So this kind of on a place like that, the arts have actually initiated a lot of this process. Arts normally lead social transformation and science, of course. And so what happens is that this horizontal environment is really the main, I would say, the main aspect of art, of creation today. So it's very normal. I mean, you don't sit anymore at the table with in dance, for instance, with the director of the National Ballet and other directors and dancers and teachers. You don't sit. It doesn't happen like that. You sit on a table in a cafe an architect, a painter, a dancer, a musician. We're going to do a show with live music. Then we call someone from programming or from GPS, whatever. I mean, you can do whatever you want. So this is the world where creation works today. There's still room for the art, for the discipline, for the real painting, and for the real sculpture, of course, and for the pure dance. But in general, I would say there's a very, very high level of contamination between the arts. And that has to be very clear, reflected on the way the creative spaces are organizing themselves, the residence areas, the meeting points. So reflect a bit, how would you like to meet other people in a space like that? And then how would you like to isolate yourself at the end of the day, for instance, so that you can incorporate and filter what you lived. And so it is no distinction for me when Vera speaks about as a place, circular place, this theater that's incredible. You could do a performance of dance there, but you can do an exhibition there. But the same way in a dance studio, you just open the curtain, you can make an installation. Dancers love to relate to objects, they love to relate to space. Theater, they normally bring a lot of stuff inside. They normally bring chairs, tables and that. But for instance, dance operates in an empty space. We love that. So for instance, since it's an empty space, we have a lot of light. Light is it in dance. That's why some of the biggest light designers of our time, they are choreographers, you know, like Billy Forsythe, etc. So we excel in light. For instance, in theater, it's a more object-oriented environment. But the places you create has to fulfill all the wishes for these people. And so going now for the public area, and so don't forget this is art. And now we're going to talk about culture. Art and culture are two totally different things. They're highly connected, but you know, it's different. Creation, what we talk now in terms of process of creation, is intimate. It's extremely sometimes selfish, absolutely connected to your own dreams, opaque, strange, weird, funny, crazy. But the culture tends, it's when it connects to the audience. It's about fruition. And culture is the opposite, it's democratic. Culture is for all, for the people that have deficiency, for people of all races, all kinds, all ages. Everybody has to come to theaters, all social classes. So it has this element of integration. And so this is two different kinds of architecture, obviously. So when we go now to the second architecture, which is the interface with the city, so I would say a place like that has to decide until where there has to be some lines there where you're not able to cross. There are intimate spaces that only for the artists. I totally believe on that. And maybe once a year you do an open day event, which is wonderful. And everybody comes in a very voyeuristic way, watching the rooms where you sleep, where you stay, and you can have performance in a room and a theater play in a veranda, whatever. You open, then you close again. So, but in my opinion, the most important interfaces place in this place would be a restaurant, which would have a green area and the park and the restaurant, and of course the theater. So there, in this articulation of the three things, the theater is where you show the finished work to the outside. You can also show it in the park. You can show it in this beautiful circular auditorium, whatever. You can even invest and show your work on the street where everybody is, on the plaza. You can invade the city, but you cannot let the city invade you as they want. On the other hand, the restaurant is a place where I would suggest there would be two restaurants, one just for artists, a place where you have all the microwaves, all the stuff. There's a cook. It's great to have a cook. I mean, we have a fantastic woman. You have to know that today in art field, there's like 80% of our menus, 85% are vegetarian or vegan. 20 years ago when it started, it was meat, and this changed in a generation. So very important that these places, restaurants normally should have a strong vegetarian side and this kind of food, because that's what artists like. But normally they like to cook, and they have this kind of big space, intimate, where the public doesn't come. But then even the restaurant, where that opens, for instance, into the park, that connects from the street. You can come with your kids. You can go after the show and stay for a drink. At night should be more like a bar, more cool for the younger people. During the day, when there is no theater, that could be for the families, that you can go to the park with your kids and have a coffee and some cake. So this should be a program also on this restaurant that connects and welcomes everybody. Could have even two sides, the restaurant, one for more of a night place, evening place, the other more daily place. But the garden is amazing. I know exactly what I would do the residents. Of course, I would not tell you because we are here just to give you ideas. You are the architects. But this idea of interface is very important. Connection is through food always. Food is Christmas, food is family, food is dinner on Sunday, food is going out and falling in love with a romantic dinner. It's always food. And so it is really important that the food as an element is an element in this place. Then the theater should have a door. There's also a place, I wouldn't tell you where I would do the theater, but there are places there where they have an access to the street where you don't have to enter the place. It's a kind of a connective, there's a connective part and a protective scheme in this space. So I would say, look for places that after a while, they become really living spaces and wonderful, not just empty and sterile, but places that you can make your own, that you can put a blanket and sleep siesta, that has shadow, that has, if you don't have trees, you can have artificial shadow, but just make sure that you would do it almost as it's the garden or is your living room in your house that you love to be, you know, informal. For instance, this is interesting. Artists, if you would not do this on the place where people come in from the street, but artists, for instance, on the restaurant of the artists and that's only access to the artists, places like this are fine. Dancers love to sit on the floor. Actors love to sit on the floor. So, I mean, we always sitting all over, but floor is a big thing for us. Now with COVID is a problem. We are disinfecting the floors constantly. We have to have a clean, in our resident space, the first thing we did immediately when we opened, we had a disinfection thing for feet, and in front of the studios is bare feet place. We have socks, and we provide socks for everybody the same way we provide masks, because the floor has to be a clean space. Has to be a very, very special. It's special, the floor. Yeah, beautiful. The lights. I mean, I would say that in a space like this, which would be wonderful for dance, for instance, you would need a curtain that very light, white, translucent curtain that very beautiful, very light, that in the day, if you don't want people to look at your rehearsal, just close the curtain, but the light is there.
Okay. So to be an artistic, as we spoke, we need to have this residential area with the living quarters. And now I'm going directly to the needs. I think we should have like a common, as you said, dining, cafeteria area, a kitchen, a laundry, but is essential. And you talk about it, Rui, to establish a logical ratio. I don't know how to say in English, relation between living quarters and the workshops. Isn't that you have to think about the number of one and another one? And I think it's one important aspect to tell your students that you have to calculate this in a way that makes sense.
Sure. I mean, we've seen some of the biggest mistakes in residence spaces. I know some, because they didn't take care of that. Either they have too many rooms and very little working spaces, or they had very little rooms and too many working spaces. So understand that today in our field, in the contemporary scene, right, in theater, dance, performing art, music, normally a production is a production of, as an average, I would say, 5-6 people. Can be a trio, can be a duo, but can be 9-10 people, but it's nothing. There's nothing here that resembles a ballet company or a big theater company. We talk about maybe a person for every 10-15 square meters. I mean, we don't need more than that. But what is important is that then we have to have individual rooms for these people. So if you have, like, imagine 5 working spaces where you can have an average of 6-7 people for space, that means you should have 35 rooms, for instance, individual. It doesn't mean that then the rooms is, because this place has to be a mix of an artist hotel. It has to be a hotel or not a hotel, but a residence area, but let's say a welcoming space for living. Then should be also a theater. And so it should be everything at the same time. Don't forget also that these groups that work the whole day together, what happens in residency, and that's why residency is so much in trend now all over the world, is because we don't have the old model of a theater company exploded 20 years ago, a long time. Artists work from project to project. Artists like instability. Artists like to change. Artists like to collaborate with different people. That doesn't mean that artists don't want to be well paid and should have a stability in the financial area. But that is the big challenge, is how to create a basal, a rhythm, a good rhythm where you can survive, but your mobility is the basis of the quality. Is a diverging thinking, is not a concentrated, is not endogenous thing, is something that opens up like a fan. And so I would say that a place like this has to correspond to this idea that, okay, I'm going to make this my house for a month. Okay, so I want to feel home. I work with these people, I feel great. In the evening, I still have my living room on my quarters. I don't want that my living room is connected to another project, because when we sit at the table after dinner, we still want to talk about the project. And then I go to sleep, or I go and read my book on my own in my room. But this is a big deal, what I'm telling you, because this is the secret of residency. And why is residency working now and didn't work before? Because the artists like sharing, like traveling, like mobility. And so you create in different places of Europe or a different place in the world is normally a good artist creates in 3 different continents, 3 different pieces and tours all over. So, I mean, you have a huge amount of mobility. And that doesn't mean that when you are in a place, you feel like you are in a hotel room. When you are in a place of residency, you still want to feel home. This means that in the evenings, you want to be with the people that you worked and you are like a family. And this makes the fact that you have the residency is highly successful today, because in fact, you have to produce faster. You don't have anymore, no money to be 4 or 5 months working. You don't work, it doesn't work anymore. It's very difficult. You have a studio in town, you're going to rehearse. I mean, by the time you arrived, you had to put the coins of the parking in your car. You have to put it and take it to another space. Sometimes you have to take your kids to the kindergarten. You pass in the office to check your emails, to talk to your people. For the moment you arrive into the studio, a lot of your energy is gone. But when you are in residence, you wake up in the morning, the freezer is full, the bread is on the table. That's something we love. We leave the bread there. In the evening, we leave always a bottle of wine and some fruits. There's always fruit there. But you start in the mornings almost half asleep with the team, having breakfast already, talking about creation. You lunch talking about creation. You have dinner talking about creation. So in 1 month, you produce what you normally would produce in 3 months, if you would just be in a normal situation. So I think I think it's interesting for you as students and architecture students. I have to say to you, I'm a frustrated architect, because I studied and I stopped my studies because dance was a big thing for me. I didn't want it to be, but I'm still today a fanatic architecture consumer. It's what I read more is architecture, actually. But I must say to you, as students and someone that is embracing space, which is the wonderful thing with space, space makes people happy. You have in yourselves the tools to make people happy, because we live in constructed spaces in towns. We live in towns. We live in nests. We don't live out in the nature. So we live in cities. So if you are an architect, you have a big chance to help a lot someone being happy or someone being miserable, depending if you do good architecture or bad architecture. So this is a very wonderful thing of architecture today. So if you take that to the extreme, which is you are helping people to be so relaxed so that they can create a piece, what we are asking you is take away all the needs. You don't even have to go shopping. That's a huge amount of energy. You don't even cook. If you want, you have the meal ready for you. People normally in residence cook because they feel, oh, today let's cook. We feel like cooking. But normally, who cares about cooking? But you care about eating. It's a different thing. And you care about creating a piece. And you are all excited to go next day to your studio to work. So think that the mood of an artist during the creative period, it's a fragile moment. You have no skin to be able to create. You have to be very vulnerable. Nobody creates if you are defensive. You have to let go of all the defenses. So you are actually very sensitive. And so just help these people to just feel great, feel respected, feel home. Believe me, this is halfway to create good art pieces.
Okay, so after that period of creation, we have the relation with the public, the connection with the public. And that's very important because normally the creative residencies give rise to work that may or may not be shown on site. And here in Miguel Bombarda space, I think we would love to have that part of the work to be possibly shown. So we then move forward to the needs of the public spaces open to the community, which must be clearly separated, as we said before a lot of times, from the private areas where the artists are living and working and feeling, like Rui said, so deeply and creating. And as we mentioned, we have that mixed zones that are the only places where that are used by both audience and artists alike. So if the idea is to present work done in the artistic residencies on site, the formal structure, imaginative strength and aesthetic versatility of the panoptic space make it ideal for performing arts, presentations, and visual art exhibitions. So I think it's the only space that me and Rui will agree with me, so as a space that would suit perfectly to show something, to show the work, even visual or performing arts, because as Rui said before, in our days it's so connected. The same space can be used by all type of artists. So that's the only building on that huge space that we would love to use as a public space to show artwork. So, and I had this image of the panoptic. It's an image like the big eye and the public, and then everything can happen in this kind of open space. It's beautiful to present all kind of things. It's very, 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 very beautiful. So, and you have that there. It's not that high, but I think it's very nice. So now we will assume that it would be great to have like areas in the outside space to show. This is in Courcheles now, a sculpture that is there. Courcheles in Alvalade, that is a residence, not a residence, sorry, studios place in Lisbon, in the middle of Lisbon. They have a garden and they have public art sculpture is being shown there. So this is an example in Louisiana how we can show sculpture in the nature. So I think it would be a great exercise for the sculpture, the art visual sculpture, to have this possibility of show their work in the space maybe for a year, and then doing like a kind of an exercise of public art inside Miguel Bombarda space. So in case of visual arts, and we have this we can use the outside space for concerts and for parties and everything. This is an image of Montemor, Rui Horta, he knows this kind of image. In the outside, this is, for example, a room that it's a site-specific installation in a small room. So I suggest that we have like very type of spaces for exhibitions, talks, white cubes. I would suggest maybe a huge white cube that you can divide with walls that you can take off. I'm showing now many things, many images. This is like a wall that you can take off, for example, in another museum. This is another, it is a white cube that, as you can see, it's bad quality image. It's Louisiana. Now you can see a lot of things that you can use in a black box, in a white box. This is Archipelago black box. Now it's empty, but you can see it's being used by visual artists, performer artists. So I think that's important to have this idea, to have the outside space connected with the sculpture and with some kind of performance or dance or music programs. And then you have to, it's important to have a building with a white cube that can be, how do you say in English? That, how do you say it? Ai, não é camaleónico que eu quero dizer, é tipo dividido, como é que vocês diriam? Pode ser...
Splitted?
That can be splitted and can be organized with multiple different areas, you know? You have a huge, and then you can divide, and so you can have a big exhibition or you can have small exhibitions. It depends on the objective. And then, of course, you have to have a black box. A black box is very important for performance arts, for music, and also for video arts. As you can see, it's very important to have a good place to show screening. Now you have a lot of artists working in video arts. So these are inspiring images. This in Archipelago Black Box, for example. This is in a garage, it's a small place, so you can have different areas. I think it's nice to have buildings that you can split and that you can adapt, because you will always have many ideas of exhibitions, and it's nice not to have just a huge space and to have many small spaces. So these are some images, and I end with this. That is beautiful. So I think with this idea, the Miguel Bombarda space would become an exceptional geographical and physical setting with the ideal conditions to create and exhibit art with quality and dignity. It would be a true oasis in Lisbon, isn't it, Rui? A dream come true for so many artists.
No, it would be great. It would be great. And you should understand that in Lisbon, there are like 10, 15 theaters and doing modern art, modern contemporary art, maybe contemporary performing arts, maybe 5, 6. But there's not a single resident space. So this is a typical thing. We did theaters all over the country. We didn't do studios. We don't care about the backyard. This is how power works. If you have a city and you are the mayor, you want to have a theater, but you don't want to have studios to create what goes into a theater. You don't like invisibility. You like visibility. That's how power deals with art. So we are talking about having invisibility. We're talking about creating contents. We're talking about process, not just results. And I would call your attention, just following some of the things that Vera says. I think in this space, for instance, I know that you probably will not invest that space, but there's a church. For instance, church, because what is important is for most of artists is neutrality. Of course, you can do things in a site-specific way. If you have a tree that has, in that place, an amazing tree that's almost a sculpture, like with 500 years, you can be sure that every year there will be at least 1 or 2 performances on that tree, because that will be so imposing as an element, almost a set. But the artists go there with ideas, not just with ideas of doing things on trees. So artists love neutrality. They like because everything you do is text on context, and the context should be whatever you want, not whatever is already there. So it is because then it becomes site specific, and it's nice to do site specific once in a while. But if you're going to travel all over the world, you want to have always the same conditions, and you want to put your dream there, and it has to survive to that space. And normally you look for a white box for visual arts and a black box for performing arts. But I think the two things can be combined. A white box, and I would love that. Imagine this place would have 5 white boxes that are also 5 black boxes. And you can decide if you have a workshop that you want to have it on white, you have it on white. If it's on black, you have it on black. I mean, if you have a performance that you want to paint the walls in pink, you just paint the walls in pink. I mean, you have to have this freedom, and freedom is it. Freedom is the big thing if you do a creative endeavor. Call your attention for the opposite for the panoplies would be the church. There's a church there, for instance. And church is normally the biggest empty spaces you find, normally also factories in cities. The two spaces you find normally in cities that became theaters after the Second World War, and when you occupy those spaces, are churches, because less and less people go to church. There are a lot of empty churches, now schools also, primary schools. And then you have also this capacity in factories, of course, because you're not allowed to have any more factories in the center of the town. So of course you see a lot of factories into art centers. But why this is important is because the dimension of an open space enables you to do a theater, to create a place where you can have 200 people watching something on an empty space the size of 10 by 10 or 20 by 20. So I would say consider for a contemporary place, not a typical theater. If you want to do something, imagine you wanted to invest a bigger space there. I didn't go to the space. There's a fantastic empty space there. Please don't fill it up with seats. And if, first of all, I mean, you can even put a sitting area, like there's these retractable seats where you can put 150 seats or 200 seats, push them back, and it becomes a project room. But think of that theater as also a modular place, not a place that has a story on it. Really, it should be almost really neutral. I mean, you could play basket, you can play handball, you can play soccer, you can play badminton, you can play whatever play. But if you fill it up already with something, you only can play one game. And normally people in these places play different games every week, every 2 weeks, and the audience comes to see different games. So resist to this bourgeois thing of velvet chairs, very comfortable, and a ticket office, and chandeliers, and a big foyer. Take this out of your mind. This is bullshit. We don't like this.
But Rui, when I speak about black box and white cube, it's because in black box you have a lot of equipment that you don't have traditionally in white cube. So I think it's for the students, it's important to think about that place. You can call it white and black box with the equipment of lights, as you said, that is very important for theater and everything. As you see in Archipelago, this black box is incredible because it is so well equipped. And then you can have a place like, as you say now, totally empty, that we call it white cube. And then we can paint it black, we can paint it black, and it can be a black box. But traditionally, I'm speaking about two different equipments.
I understand you, but I don't agree. I don't agree. Because, I mean, if you have a grid with 4 motors, and if you just want to have it empty, bring the grid down, take out the motors, there's nothing. It's clean white ceiling. You don't need anything. What you don't need is to make I know very well this black box you see now in the picture in Archipelago. I love Archipelago and I love the architect that did it, but this black box is stupidity. Yes. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, this black box. There's maybe 50 flying bars, which cost a fortune. We don't have money for this anymore. They don't make any sense. Never, maybe one artist when they use them all it's beautiful if you move them all and that's it, you use it, but everything will look the same. You would not need a grid like this. You could have a grid. If you want to do theater, you have 4 motors, you just put aluminum grid, a truss box, very elegant around. You can put bars in the middle, whatever, or just create a very thin frame around. If you have an exhibition, you simply keep the truss and you just put neon lights, or you can put just things to put for the paintings, just 5 lamps, 20 lamps. But if you want to do a big show, put 200 lamps. I think we have a huge problem with space and illuminating space. This is, I mean, I'm also a light designer, and I must say, I think a lot about that. And I really believe that emptiness is the biggest freedom of all. It's really emptiness, because then it enables you to create the context you want. Yes, I mean, you can do incredible architecture options. Imagine if you could have a full wall that disappears and connects with the garden in one of those places. I mean, this would be amazing, but this would be a very clever architecture decision. But still, when it's closed, is white or is black. But if you open it, it can have a green outside of like 20 or 30, 50 meters green park. But I would say don't lose too much. Understand that a lot of the things that we need as workshop, also for instance, visual artists needs. Because today, the way we work is completely horizontal. We love to work with I mean, I give you an example, Rui Chaves, which is a Portuguese, wonderful Portuguese sculptor and actually artist. He did a piece with Vera Appleton a couple of years ago with a woman hanging on a sculpture. I mean, of course, he did it open air. There's no place where you can put it inside the theater. Then you put it in a theater with a very big dimension. But you have to build it also open air because it's so big. So you have to weld. It's hard work. So when Vera talks about a workshop, it's probably a workshop outside. It's big, but you can have a roof just when it rains, you can keep working. But it has to be maybe 5, 6 meters, 7 meters high. So you can put chains and hang a big object there. And you can work for a sculpture for an exhibition, but you can work also for a piece for an installation, or you can work there for a set for a dance piece or a theater piece. And this capacity of defining a space that's not undefined is very important. Like there's some spaces that have to be what it is. For instance, Vera was talking about a sound studio. I believe it's very important, a sound studio. But you know, there's a lot of visual artists today that work with sound, the same way that there's a lot of dancers and choreographers and theater people that work with sound. So that's a big interface. But yes, a recording studio would be fantastic. It's also good for a garage band. It's also good when it's empty to lend to the kids that are in the garage band across the street to go there 3 times a week to rehearse. And it's wonderful. So, I mean, try not to close yourself into disciplines. Think of breaking all the barriers and understand that in the world we live today, and that's why Vera is a great example, because she has a small art gallery with most of the incredible artists in Portugal went there, which I always find a miracle. I don't even know how she got all these names, all these people there with just sometimes 2 or 3 pieces, that's all. But then she also gets the dancers and the theater people. And she somehow...
But I know how difficult it is to put lights there, and because it's an empty space, you know, it's very difficult to adapt the white cube to a dance space, because...
You needed another meter on top. Another 2 meters.
Yeah, we need another meter to talk about that. But of course, I know very deeply how it is possible to use a white cube for everything. So, but I think if we have a potential like this, maybe it would be nice to have one space more prepared to with the lights in the right space and in the right place, and more prepared to do that more easily. It's just that. But I agree with you. I think everything can be possible in a white cube, in a black cube, in a white box, in a black box. We call it like that. It's like terms for us. But I agree with you. But if we have this potential, maybe we can use one space to have that condition specific that is sometimes very, very hard to find in a white cube and with no money. So imagine that we have this possibility. Maybe we can have a black box more prepared. Just that. Just a suggestion for me. Okay.
I would like to show you some images actually of Montemor. Just pass them, just for inspirational, because that is really good. And that's it. And then after, I think we could just have questions from who wants to ask, right?
Yes, I stop. So you have to share screen. I'm off.
Okay, so I'll try to see if I can get in.
I don't know, João and Pedro, if you have students' questions for us.
I think we'll have after Rui show us the pictures. And...
Are you seeing what I'm seeing now? Are you seeing this?
Yes.
You can see it in a bigger scale, yeah?
I see the guy with the hat.
Yes. This is wait. Let's just something here.
Cool.
Yeah, this is a director from a theater working on the Bullfight Plaza. Beautiful space. This is the local band playing in the cloisters. This is an old hospital where we lived there for 6 months, and this was wonderful. It had a big patio. This is the monastery on top where we do social things with the community. So you always see things community, and then I show you things with artists. So this is children performance in the patio. This is about, Frida Kahlo. This is Teatro Praga, so it's pieces of art, you know. This is dance, very important. Party, it's very important, guys. It's very important to have places where you can have party and raves and dance. And
gardens with a DJ, yes, it would be perfect.
Kids, you will have in this place probably a connection with the closest school there. Books are very important, book fair. This is a performance that we created for kids, you know, a woman with microphone, electric guitar, theater. This is with a local theater group, very simple, older people, you know, nice band playing, nice cloisters. This is the place where we are now, because the ceiling of the monastery fell 3 years ago. And of course, now when ceilings fall in Portugal, you can then renovate the spaces, because until there, nobody believes that you need help. But since a famous artist almost died there, Swedish guy called Jefta van Dinter, I think they got scared. And then now we are out during the renovations. So we are using this space. And in 6 months, actually, we adjusted. I'll show you how it looks now. Jean-Paul Santos is a piece we did for the festival in Avignon. This is what happened to the roof of the monastery, guys. This was a dance studio, and there was a storm, and the roof just fell. So nobody died, thank God. So kids, this is the place that we came, where we changed into our actual space where we are now. Tiago Rodrigues, wonderful, is the director of the National Theatre, giving a talk to kids. See, this is very nice, because in an empty space here, what we did is for the summer, we put just some seats for 100 people there. And then we put we covered, because it's very hot in the Alentejo. And we created with a grid, we created a stage also with a small shadow. So during the week, people rehearse. During the weekend, we have shows for the community. This is where we are now, in a garage. This is the place now after the works. We did like very fast works, and it's working actually quite nicely. This is where we are now. We also have a patio. We have 16 rooms. This is our kitchen room, one of the working spaces, another major theater studio. We have 2 of these, so we have 3 working spaces. And the spaces are all pretty much the same. They are modulable. They can be completely, like for instance, space as a black curtain that can change. As you see, every place can be a black box or a white box. Most of the spaces. This is the living rooms. This is what artists love to do. The local theater. Yeah, it's an abandoned church without roof in the middle of the countryside. We like to do conferences there. This is on top of the theater. We have the dressing room in the black box, but then people love to sleep there. It's almost like a flat. So many people sleep in the place where they work, imagine. They love to stay at night. You finish working late, you don't even go to your place, you sleep there for the morning, for the next day. This is connective spaces. Cloister spaces are very good. A circular space or a square space. Yeah, this is community. This is, as you can imagine, this is just inspirational. Community work. Party. And now this is our black box transformed in a white box. Very informal. This is a factory. We just put some seats, we put a grid, we put a stage, and we have a theater. We don't need more. The same. This is the school pavilion where you play basketball and handball. And in 2 days, we turn into a stage for 300 people and 12 by 12. And we have a grid, 4 motors, 6 motors. We fly in what we need. This is how a normal studio works sometimes, you know, crazy. It's because the artists they do this. They love this. They bring flowers, they bring things. This is Mozambique, Jorge Andrade, a very, very interesting artist. This is the National Orchestra Metropolitana. This is the National Ballet there, which is fun. Food, drinks. Well, this is our schedule, non-stop. So that's it, guys. This actually is a good image. Everybody having a drink. This is a very happy image.
Ending.
Okay, so stop sharing. It's been stopped. Okay, so are you?
Done?
It's stop sharing, right?
Yes.
Fantastic.
It's done. Vera and Rui.
Yes, I'm here.
Done it.
Done.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing these marvelous ideas and experience. I myself, I was enjoying a lot and learning, and I was imagining me as a student that are existing and saying, these guys are solving my problem, because you give them so many ideas, more than references, so many humanistic dimension to the space, to the way it have to be used, that I think it's high quality material for them to work over their own materials of dealing with the context, dealing with solid and constructive elements. But although I think this dimension that you talk during this conversation, it's very important for everybody, and for them it's special because they are not so used to share with other persons this humanistic dimension, how to use the space. And that's why we are so attractive to bring this program, because somehow we could talk about this related to space, not only space by space. So I think this was really a happy moment. Now I think we could try to see if we have questions and share and open this to the students if we have. I don't know. João, are you seeing some questions or?
I don't know. I still don't have. But
during the presentation, there were a few questions for me, but it went so well that you have been answering my own questions when you were speaking, for example, about this possibility of relation between the visual arts and the performing arts. I have a doubt if it was possible in this, and how they should build the connections, or if it should be two separated organizations. So I have that doubt. It's going to work. It's interesting to mingle, or it's better to create their own spaces. Somehow it could be interesting to hear a little more about this cross contamination, if there is more possibilities than difficulties.
I actually would like to answer this. You see, theater people are very curious about dance because they love movement. So they're very curious about dance. Dance people are very excited about text. So they love theater. All of them love visual arts, because what we find in visual arts is this incredible thing of, you know, when you leave a piece in the gallery, that piece has to speak for itself. So it has to be talking to me. So it has to be the perfect statement. And sometimes we talk a lot and we don't come to the point, but we recognize in conceptual arts, for instance, the capacity just with an image say a lot. So we are all fascinated by visual arts, but visual arts are very fascinated by theater and by movement and by bodies and so we are all fascinated by each other. And then we all together are very fascinated by new technologies. We all use some kind of technology. So we live in this kind of hybrid space. And so I would imagine that there's no hierarchy in this space. And I think the most wonderful thing in a space like that would be this contagious element, where we can really sit at the same table, and all of a sudden there's a student, or there's an actor, or there's a painter, or there's a set designer, or a choreographer, and everybody is sharing something. And the work today is a lot about collaboration. I mean, we are not, well, also there's a very strong element in collaboration that mirrors actually social changes. Like we have been always ahead. This has been the story of humanity and the story of art and science in humanity. We are in a very collaborative world since a long time. And our society slowly is moving away from a competitive society to a collaborative society. Even when you compete, you have to collaborate. Even if you have a shopping center, you have to put a lot of shops close to each other that compete with each other, but you collaborate, in fact, because you have a certain amount of customers that go there. But even if you take it away from the context of business, what happens today in social environment is that human beings are really looking for collaborative activities. And this is a very big changing paradigm for a better world, actually. So this idea of being able to be horizontal, to not be hierarchical, should be a big inspiration for this space. This should be a non-hierarchical space. This is a space where, of course, it runs by itself, almost invisibly. Of course, someone is to lead this space, But even someone that leads the space is not a chief, is a leader. Someone that listens all the time is not someone that imposes. So this idea of horizontality constantly, I want to I was crazy doing this choosing for a week this scholarship where we had 300 applications. And then I went to Espaço do Tempo. I didn't go for a week. And it was incredible. All of a sudden I have 4 different artists working on the space. I will not say their names because they don't mean for the students much, but in the art field, these are very interesting and excited people. One from dance, one from theater. There was even one actor writing a text for a new place. On the garage, he found a crazy place to write. He was even sleeping there. He took the pillows, he took a mattress. He didn't leave the garage. He found a great place in the garage. He's been there for 2 weeks, Gonçalo Waddington. This guy is incredible. And you have to have the freedom that you can move things around, take chairs, take tables, combine. The freedom of the space is a big thing, and this horizontal quality. So when you were talking, Pedro, about contamination, and if they could, yes, we can, we should, not we can, we should, because we crave for. And during this period of time, we are sponges. We suck everything we can because we don't have any other worries. We don't even listen to the mobile phone anymore. We just put the mobile phone on the side. Most of the times, people lose their mobile phones. You just use your computer to do research on the net for your piece, but you don't go to Facebook. So, this is a very interesting environment in creation.
His explanations shows a lot what you said previous about art is leading, because we imagine that your explanation, how you relate with each other, could expand to the whole society, and we will have a much better society, because in other fields, we don't feel that. Even in our field as architects, there's a kind of deep and hard competition. There is still some blocks. So we hope that your explanation can, as going ahead, spread to other circles. Let's hope about that. And it's a beautiful idea, that this idea of horizontality and sharing with our hierarchy, like I'm more important or less important. I'm here to share and to build something together. It's very interesting. My doubt was also if this kind of program that we put to the students of the visual arts and the performing arts, if this could create a too big structure that somehow could break a little bit this more human dimension, because then we have quite big structure when we gather them together. So it's something that we should concern, but I think the sites can solve that somehow, because the void and because it's somehow a kind of isolated place, but somehow we were considering if the scale somehow can break a little bit the potential of bringing the people together, because they get a little more under this presence of this equipment, as we could say it. I don't know what you.
They also, I think they will make the space their own space. They change the space into a place. They give it a soul. And this is what they do when they are there for a long time. And they know they make friends with people from other residences. They fall in love. They make babies sometimes. This thing is very normal in residence. This is what we do in residence. That's what you do home. It is life. You have a chunk of life there. And normally my experience also says that people that have competitive relationships outside, for instance, in the theater world, it's very known that in Montemor, nobody competes. With people that don't talk to each other in Santos or Bairro Alto or in Lisbon, and they wouldn't talk to each other, some theater companies, very competitive. In Montemor, they are all eating together, everybody's having a good time. You just drop your guard. You drop your guard. So you need to, very nice thing is if these students can find ways that help us to relax, to drop the guard, because you feel safe. It's a safe area. And there's not so many safe areas inside of a city. There's in Montemor. Why does Montemor works? Because we became a safe haven for Lisbon. We have a lot of artists from Lisbon and Montemor. There's nobody from Montemor in Montemor in our structure. We only have artists from Lisbon, from Porto, from Amsterdam, from Paris, from London. We have people that come there because somehow they recognize. I mean, we something good we did because we have so many clients. Between we have some intense clients, because we always surprise how many people want to go there, because in a way we give them something that they are craving. And I think the main thing we do is of course this smile, this hospitality, good food, respect, home, but then you get them also out of their normal context. There's something crazy happening to the human mind when you go away from your normal daily context and you go. That's why we go on holidays to different places. You don't say, okay, I go on holidays. Okay, I go to my room for 2 weeks. No, you don't go to your room for 2 weeks. You go out of your room. You go into the nature. You go into the beach. You go into the mountains. You find the need to displace your soul in order to re-energize it. And I somehow, the residents, for instance, a very important thing is to be able to watch a film at night, to watch it, and not only in a TV, to just take a projector to your studio. And often, so many times this happens. You just take the projector that was used for rehearsal, and then you just take your computer, you project the film on a big screen, you connect the sound system that's normal for rehearsal, you put it, you have a home cinema, then everybody brings the pillows and the blankets and the comforters, and all of a sudden there's a movie session until 3 o'clock in the morning. And this is inspirational, and out of this thing will come a new play the next day. Somehow we influence the creative process of these people. So this incredible amount of openness should permeate the architecture. I don't know. I think I know that I'm talking a bit abstractly about values and about ideas, a bit diffuse, but I think that's what will inspire these younger people when they take over the space. Is maybe some of these things stay.
Okay. Well, I was also curious, and I think I understand very clearly this idea of permeability between the performance and the arts and the visual arts. So they mingle; they are not separated things. I was curious about how do this can relate to the city and to the community, not of course through the restaurant, but also how is it a natural thing at the end of the residence to show the work? Does it make sense to, or it can happen or it cannot happen? Or...
But you will show the processes, not just the finished work, because for different kind of work we have different kind of audiences. The audience has a very voyeuristic side. Actually, voyeurism is a big thing, plays a big thing in performance, right? You watch something dark, in the dark, and nobody sees you, but you see. So voyeurism is a big thing, A very nice text from Mauricio Catalan about that. But the idea of you I don't know, the relation with the community should be also watching an open rehearsal, not just a performance finished. And that creates a very strong bond with the community. Community loves that. People love to go to forbidden places. You love to go to a stage. When you do a performance inside a stage, people always look around because stage is sacred. It's like going to church and you never put your foot on the altar. That stage, it's instead of sacred, we don't deal with sacred, but the same principle. We deal with the transcendental, not with the sacral, but it's the same pretty much. So it's a forbidden area. And so you create this bond with an audience that love this. Probably they will prefer even to go to open rehearsal video community. You can have senior citizens, unemployed people going there when they have time. You can have students, lots of students. For sure, you will connect with the nearby secondary school or the 2 or 3 small primary schools around there. You will have probably a very interesting bond with the community if you establish so, but you have to invite them. Well, then you have to, so that means that probably in this space, you have a small office with what we call an outreach program, a professional that only does community work, that you just create community projects because it is important to connect. You cannot be you can be an island, but you cannot be always an island.
Fine.
So,
well, I don't know if
I think you can connect with I don't think if you're listening to me.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are listening.
Please.
I don't know if we have some questions.
For the moment, no. So
no.
we
I
hear
think
from
it has been
Vera.
so
Vera
clear.
was.
But
Vera was.
answering your
Please.
question, João, also I have something to say, because I think for visual arts, it's important to show something that is completely done. I think visual artists, I'm separating things because I think even though they connect with each other, I think it's different the way they approach to the community, and I think we should think about that. So in one way, I agree with Rui when he says that people go to see things before. So I think it's very important maybe to do studio visits during the residence and connecting with the process, with the creating process, and even with that idea with the sculpture in the open air, in the emptiness of the spaces. I think people can go there and see the process, but I think it's very important for visual arts to have exhibitions, to have a space to show final work also. And even for performance, I think it's good to think that they will show something finalized, and I think that's the one way of connecting with the community, but also in the process, like we said, because we are speaking about a residence place, so the process is very important, and I think you should focus on that also. But as we spoke, you have the public relation with the presentations with the general public, and then you can have that in between area where you show the artist process, the artist's work before the general public can access to that, and maybe you can have a relation with the community of that area specific. And so I think you can have both things, the creative process and then the final thing. It's very important for the artist also to show that, maybe for a specific public, maybe specific presentations for schools, or I don't know. But I think it's important to show the final.
I agree. What I would say is we need to include, not exclude. Include.
Yeah.
And also knowing that in Lisbon there are 20 art galleries, but there's not a single place like this. So we should not compete with the other 20 art galleries.
You don't have an independent space. You don't have a lot of independent space. I think this place can be a nice place to have independent space that you don't have in Lisbon. You have like 4, not galleries. I'm not speaking about galleries in the convention way. So this is a place for independent artists maybe that don't have a gallery, and then they can show their work in a formal way. I think that's important also to offer this in the city.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
This is not so. That's not so much my world. But in the theater,
in
the theater, I would not need. We have 5 or 6 independent spaces, fringe, big spaces, small spaces. They're all eating each other.
Independent space for visual exhibitions with quality, with dignity. You don't have a lot in Lisbon. Okay. You have like 3. You can count by your fingers. So I think it's an opportunity also for that.
Another question, not so poetic, but could be also helping. Is can you define a little bit what are your clients for a resident for performing arts or for visual arts? What kind of people are interesting? What are their characteristics? They are alone, they are families, they are young, old.
For the residences or for the public?
For the residents, no, for the residents, artists, visual ones and performing ones, if they are somehow the same, with the same characteristics or completely infinite possibilities, from age to groups.
I think you have infinity possibilities. You have young artists, you have middle career artists.
Interested in staying in a place like this for 1 month, 2 months, more time. What is your experience on that?
I don't know if we are speaking about foreign artists also, that's important. That's very important if it's just for Portuguese or if you will respond to foreign artists also. But I think now in nowadays you have middle career artists that would love to be in a place like this for a month or for 3 months or for 6 months. In the kind of artists I know better than performer arts, but even I know, of course, as Rui said, now I work a lot with performance artists that were visual artists. They connect everything, and I think you have a multiple people interested in this. I think maybe not senior artists, not that kind of artists, but middle career and very young. I think they would love. Of course, the youngest people are more available for this without a family and.
Yeah, I mean, I did already this reflection a few years ago, so I think I have a tentative answer for that, and it's very different from visual arts from performing arts. The time in performing arts is much faster. I mean, it's a very collaborative art, first of all, and in visual arts tends to be collaborative but have smaller teams.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very expensive art. It's the most expensive art besides cinema. You always have big teams, cost a lot of money, a lot of salaries, a lot of conditions. So you have these teams together for like 2 months, 3 months to do a piece. I would say a normal time of residence would be 2 to 3 weeks. 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks maximum.
That's very different from visual arts.
Yeah. For the visual arts, you have this thing that Vera was talking, and I think it is actually the point. Actually, I thought Lisbon is perfect for that. And actually, I was advising a project in visual art that fell through years ago. And for me, it was clear it was going to fall through. It was a place called Egg. And they wanted to do a residence area in Lisbon. But some people approached me about that. But and there were a lot of mistakes in this place. But one of the things that on the program, it was very clear for me, was this thing that Vera calls middle career artists. You have start to have success. And then, of course, you also have small kids at a certain point. One of very important thing in a residence space like this, you have to have rooms. Some rooms in residences with the plugs safe or a bit higher. You have kids, and we have some of the best artists now. They have children. Even gay artists are adopting children, and they come with their kids, the babysitter. So we have to respond to that, to this family needs sometimes. Not very often, but more and more often. On the other hand, on the visual arts, I would imagine, I mean, you have your career, you have success, your exhibitions, your stuff is being shown in museums, etc. And then you have your kids always with you, you have a family life and this. It's great for you to come to a place for like 3-4 months, not for 3 weeks, yes. 2 months, 3 months, 6 months.
Longer, yeah.
Normally in a place like this, you would have an apartment. You cannot be in a place with other people. You need to find some alcoves in this big area, some small houses, some small places where you are yourself and you stay there. Maybe your wife comes to visit you with the kids for 2 weeks, and then you go back into your world. Maybe they come also with you and they spend 2 or 3 months with you if kids are not in school, or they come to visit you, but you need your space for a long period. Yes. And then what you do normally as a retribution, you offer, maybe we pay everything, but then in the end you offer an exhibition of the things you've done during the time of residence, maybe other works. And so you can give back something to the community and but I would imagine this is totally not on the norm, but I can imagine if you would have in this huge space in the middle of a city like Lisbon, one place, at least one little house, one little corner, an alcove, a place where nobody goes, or maybe 2, but maybe 1 would be already great. There will be always every month an artist, or every 4 months or every 3 months an artist, because he would love to be doing his work in total intimacy in a place where he is only himself. But I'm sure once in a while he would love to go to the madness of the other side, and he would mingle and he would be inspired. And then I'm sure you would have a line of top artists coming to Lisbon, what we call middle career artists coming in onto the top level. You would not get the top artists, but you would get maybe the second division, those that will be top in a couple of years, because everybody wanted to be in this place. Everybody, they all wanted to be here.
Yes, I agree.
So this place will become very trendy, extremely trendy, very quickly, because these people, they come with books, flash art, articles, this and that, and then these are big stories about them. These are big shots, and it's not Basel, not Miami, not Hong Kong. It's really Lisbon, but it's.
But for foreign artists, it would be wonderful to come to Lisbon to a residence in a place like this.
Can you imagine?
It would be like a dream for foreign artists. They love Lisbon. They would be in Lisbon, but in the nature with all these conditions. So opening this for foreign artists would be like crazy.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, that's a sea of opportunities in this place, definitely. And I think there's, of course, this big building, the old monastery, I can imagine that's the monastery. It has some interesting things actually, in terms of, it's a very dark area, the center, but also it gets some light. We were doing some tests with Vera, checking where the light comes in. We can do it through the Google Maps, and it's quite.
We went to Google Maps visiting the space, me and Rui, and we imagined things for every building. That was not supposed. It was not our job. Only the panoptic that we.
Yeah, but it was all fun. We had fun imagining. We had fun
imagining the residence area. We have imagined everything.
But we felt, yeah, sure. But we felt we could not condition the students today. Today was actually like you say, only the panoptic was the only one that was so special. But we felt that today we should stay within the concepts and no guidelines.
Yeah.
In terms of this is for you now.
But the rest, okay, is with us, the dream, but we will not tell your students what we imagined there. But it was crazy.
I think with your position that you share with us, you give them much more than telling them specific solutions for some parts of the program. Because always what we order the students to do is to somehow build a concept based on ingredients coming from the site and coming from the program. And sometimes from the program, it's more difficult because the site we can travel, can visit, we can experience. And the program is a list of spaces with numbers. So for them, sometimes is more far away the issue of the program. How can they give shape to that list? And today, and it's the first time in school that I have this experience, that today with your talk, I think it helps a lot to give not a real shape, not an architectonical shape, but a body on the program. So it becomes realistic and much more important, humanistic. So it's for people, it's for life. You show a lot this side of this equipment to be a life place. So all the structure have to be a kind of a stage for life and performing, but first for life. I think that that was the main thing, one of the main ideas that you share with different details that I think students, is for sure they are, as they have been showing, very smart. They will gather all and take advantage with these main ideas. Well, questions that
No, I think there are no questions, so I think we'll end this session. Thank you, Vera and Rui, and I hope that you all will use and reflect about this conversation. And as Pedro says, it gave flesh to the skeleton, so now it's something alive, and I think you can use it for the project. But it was much more interesting than just for the project. It was really a nice conversation. So thank you both, and so we'll finish now.
Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you for sharing.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.